as GOP candidates Ted Cruz and John Kasich team up against Trump. Hillary Clinton also went on the attack, not calling out her adversary, that would be Senator Bernie Sanders, but calling out the billionaire businessman at an earlier event in Wilmington, Delaware, for being out of touch with the American people.
You don't just fly that big jet in and land it and go make a big speech and insult everybody you can think of, and then go back, get on that big jet and go back to, you know, your country club house in Florida or your penthouse in New York. I somehow don't think that kind of puts you in touch.
Is Hillary in touch enough to sweep all 5 primary states tomorrow, or will Senator Bernie Sanders manage to eke out a win or two? Joining me now is Pennsylvania superdelegate and also Democratic Congressman Brendan Boyle. And let me just get the very up-to-the-minute comment here. You have not committed to either Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton. Is that correct, Representative?
Yeah, hey, Liz, great to be back with you. That is correct. I've really been focusing the time in my district campaigning, actually for my brother, Kevin Boyle, who's running for state senate. And that's been kind of the main race that I've been focused on when not occasionally entertained by what's been going on in the presidential race, especially on the Republican side.
Well, you're a good brother. You're a good brother.
He did it. He did it for me. I wouldn't be here in Congress if it wasn't for Kevin's popularity in his state House district, and would make a great state senator. So that's been my primary focus. I will say that you know, regardless of how the superdelegates go, I think it's unfortunate that the system, that even the conversation of superdelegates takes place, because it gives the perception that on the Democratic side, the actual voters aren't making the choice, when in fact Hillary Clinton has a very large lead at this point. I think after tomorrow she'll probably have a lead of closer to 400 delegates, and at that point the race will be, for all intents and purposes, over.
But yet you are in the catbird seat. The superdelegate votes truly do matter, Congressman. So is there one candidate that you're leaning toward? Because at this point, as you see real disarray, or certainly a major dogfight, as we're calling it, on the Republican side, would it not help to coalesce behind one of the 2 Democratic candidates from your perspective, so that there's a jump ahead for the Democrats?
No, you know, I think it depends on what kind of race that Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders continue to have. So far, this race has been largely a substantive race. You've not gotten into the same sort of name-calling and silliness that you've seen on the Republican side with Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, and even now lumping in sometimes John Kasich. So I think as long as the Democratic race stays substantive, then I don't see any harm in it continuing all the way through June. That said, the math is the math. At this point, Bernie Sanders would have to win something like 70-30 for all of the contest remaining. That's clearly not going to happen. And that's just in pledged delegates. Forget the superdelegates.
When will you decide?
Well, Election Day is tomorrow, so I will say that I'm leaning strongly in one direction.
Is it Hillary? I mean, I'm pushing you.
Tomorrow,
I have to say I'm pushing you, because this is a tight race here when you look at the emotions behind it. And, of course, it hasn't been without strife. You've had Hillary Clinton and Bernie disagreeing on a bunch of things. In fact, listen to what Bernie Sanders said. He has, of course, attacked Hillary Clinton because he says there are large amounts of money flying around that are supporting her, and it makes it less of a democracy and more of an oligarchy. Listen.
Democracy is under assault in America right now. When billionaires are able to buy elections through super PACs, when Wall Street and the fossil fuel industry and the drug companies are able to pour huge amounts of money into the political process, that is not democracy. That is called oligarchy.
Congressman, I know you. You did not come from a lot of money. You won your seat probably not from billionaire investments or super PACs. So does that message resonate with you? And are you leaning more toward Hillary, even though Bernie Sanders may have somewhat of the same emotional fabric here for you?
Yeah, so first of all, you're right in terms of my personal background. Actually, I won my 4-way congressional primary 2 years ago, despite the fact I raised the least amount of money in the race, which turned out to be the most expensive congressional primary in the country. I would say I happen to agree with Bernie Sanders' point on that when it comes to the way our campaigns are financed. I gave a speech last week on the House floor when I said, ironically, I think it's an area where you could see Donald Trump supporters and Bernie Sanders supporters agreeing that we need to dramatically overhaul the way campaigns are financed in this country. I called for public financing of elections. Yes, it would cost public money, but I think it's the wisest dollars we would spend. That said, I do think it's unfair to somehow present it as if Hillary Clinton is the big defender of this system. I think when it comes to something like public financing, they both probably agree on it. The difference is that Bernie Sanders has made it the centerpiece of his campaign, whereas Hillary is focused on a broader array of issues.
Well, you as a superdelegate hold some power here. Tomorrow is the big day in Pennsylvania. You didn't bite here, but I'm going to guess you're leaning toward Hillary Clinton. Am I right?
Liz, you are a wise person, and I always enjoy joining you for your deep insights.
And
I will say, by the way, just a quick point, though. I do think after this race, we do need to re-examine the superdelegate situation and find a way in which superdelegates are required to vote how their state votes.
Okay. A superdelegate who wants a change in the system, or at least a closer look. Good to see you, Congressman. Join us again.
All right. Thank you, Liz.
Brendan Boyle, Pennsylvania Democrat and Congressman and superdelegate.